WSOU 89.5 FM, the loudest rock. I'm Valentino, and I'm joined today with Manuel from Zeal and Ardor. How you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. Hope you're doing the same.
I'm doing very well. Thank you. Thank you. So we got a lot of exciting stuff to talk about. Been about 4 years since the last time we caught up, if you can believe it. But time flies. Brand new record, self-titled, out now. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. It's a good feeling to have it finally out. It's been in the making for, way too long. So feels good. Yeah.
Exactly. And, it definitely has been in the making for a while. I kind of want to ask a little bit about that record gap. You have 2017, your first record, 2018, your second, then you've got that 4-year gap between this one. What was it like kind of really taking time to hone and craft this one?
Well, it wasn't as much like us honing the stuff. I mean, we did do it with intention, but I mean, most of the time was spent touring. And we were just out and about and didn't really get to record stuff or write stuff. And eventually did because, reasons around 2020. So that was good.
Yeah. Exactly. To no one's surprise, you were trapped inside. You had to write, do nothing else but write. But
exactly.
I kind of want to ask a little bit about the sonic evolution of, Zeal and Ardor, because you guys have obviously played with so many different sounds and tones, but this record, especially self-titled, is so eclectic, give me a peek inside, that curtain.
We just kind of figured, let's try out what we can get away with and not have people walk away. And I think we kind of skirted the edge with this one, but it's just fun to keep things fresh because I'm easily bored. So this was a fun one, definitely.
Absolutely. And I think with this record, there's more synthesizer in this record than ever before in a Zeal and Ardor record. Like this really kind of, you play with that new tool a lot as well.
Yeah, I mean, I do like industrial music and I do like, synthesizer music, obviously. So it was kind of a logical evolution for me. And also, I was stuck inside and all I had to play with was gadgets. So it was bound to happen.
Exactly. I love that just, it was going to happen regardless. And so, of course, I kind of want to talk a little bit about one track in particular. I know we're kind of touching on this, the craziness of all the sounds in this new record, Immersion. I want to talk about that track. Tell me a little bit about, the craziness that goes into that. It's like a 2-minute track, but it's just jam-packed with all this cool stuff.
Yeah, well, I just kind of wanted to, in the theme of what can we get away with, it starts with one of those, background YouTube type beats where, to relax and study to, and then it just goes full black metal, but in a hopeful way. And that actually it started in the reverse. So there's a piano outro and I wrote that a couple of years ago. And then I just kind of put Lego blocks in reverse order to it. And now we have this abomination. So here we are.
Well, that's the thing is, you talk about how I had to write this so I wouldn't get bored. As a listener, you're never bored once when listening to this thing. Every time you think, okay, it's going to be a more chill track, you're right. A black metal blast comes out of nowhere. It's so unexpected.
Yeah, that's fun. I mean, I do like to play with people's expectations. It's not my main goal, but, to hear stuff like that just makes me all warm inside. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I do want to ask a little bit about, obviously, you recorded in 2020, Wake of a Nation. Do you think that EP inspired this record at all or no?
I think it's a transitional thing. You can see the makings of certain elements in that EP. It's more, I guess, industrial adjacent. And I think, I guess it's a stepping stone in a way. So it is audible, I think.
No, I think so too. And I even think that EP Wake of a Nation is so cool because it's I'd say the closest just straight black metal, hardcore, death metal, thing you guys have done, because everything else, as we mentioned, it's very eclectic, it has a lot of, timbre in it, but that one, it's the most angry and aggressive Zeal and Ardor we've heard. And I think that bleeds into the new cycle as well.
Yeah.
Good. Absolutely. And then of course I kind of want to ask a little bit about, the color palette of this record cycle. You've done that purple, that kind of, dark green, first time, black and white. Is that a conscious choice on your part or?
It is. Funnily enough, the designer is right next to me here. This is Noe.
Hi.
Hi.
And we decided early on, first we have, the purple and green thing, and we've done that for quite a while. And it was time for like a new start, I guess. So we picked daringly black and white, which is not exactly the most imaginative, but hey, it works. So, yeah,
it works. Well, thank you both again for all the the incredible work you guys have both put in. It's super cool on the as the fans to see this like new chapter unfold.
Mhm. Yeah, we're happy to give it.
Yeah. And I even think like having such like, you're right, a stark transition with this color palette, because you have been doing that, that dark green, blue, purple for a while. It signifies like a total new era of Zeal and Ardor. This is nothing like you've heard before as a fan. It's, starting anew.
Yeah, it is like a fresh start. And I think it'll be interesting to see how people react to it, because we're about to hit the road with Meshuggah. And, people who watch Meshuggah generally want to see Meshuggah. And I mean, it might be a tough sell.
That's really funny, because anyone in the metal community knows that is 100% like, yeah.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, again, I think it's so cool because you've toured with like, bands like, Baroness as well. So you're the kind of band where you can tour with a band like Meshuggah, but you can also play with like kind of anything under that rock umbrella. Because your music is so incredibly talented and very diverse. You don't have to limit yourself to one genre of touring.
Yeah, I mean, we're extremely lucky in that regard, and I think it's about to change because, we've been in that limbo of, this is rock music or this is, just vague metal, and I feel like there's bound to be some booking agents going, wait a second, you're this band, and then like the jig is up, So, but as long as we can get away with this eclectic touring, I'm all for it. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's also so comforting to see just, in the metal community. Because I feel like, especially, I've talked about this on the show a few times with a few other artists, is that like, as much as I love metal, it's my favorite genre, but the people in the metal community can be very, that's not hardcore, that's post-hardcore. Oh, that has a metalcore tinge, but it's not metalcore, and it's nice to kind of see like, bands like yourself, going on tour with like so many different kinds of bands, just kind of really blending the lines a bit.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, also like under metalheads, I don't know one person who just listens to strictly one genre of music. So to be so adamant about those little, corners, it's bizarre. It doesn't even make sense, but to each his own.
Exactly. And I have to ask, obviously, about fall of 2021. You did a massive tour with Mastodon and Opeth. That was one of the craziest tour lineups I've seen in a long time. Tell me a little bit about that experience touring with legendary bands in the scene.
Yeah, we just want to make an effort to, bring out young, unexperienced bands and show them a little bigger audience. No, it was amazing. Like I mean, apart from it being a huge privilege, I know people always say this, but those bands are like the kindest people you've ever meet. And like we played the first set, it's only half an hour. So we're done like by 8 o'clock. And then, we get to see Opeth and Mastodon perform. So literally the best job in the world. Just sugar. Yeah.
Oh, exactly. And I got to go to that New York show, and it was, I'll tell you, it's something incredible. Just all three bands that, all of you guys put on such an amazing experience, start to finish. Honestly, one of the highlight tours of the year, I'd say. But speaking of touring, I have to ask, obviously, you've been in the States for a few festivals before the pandemic hit. You did, the Baroness tour, a few other stuff, obviously the Mastodon tour.
Yeah.
We haven't seen a headlining Zeal and Ardor tour in a very, very long time in the US. Is there any plan to get that in works? Do you guys have any hopes?
Well, I can't talk about it, but that implies that there's something I can't talk about. So there's that.
Okay. All right. all we need. Hopefully something is in motion. That's very, very exciting. And yeah, I do kind of want to ask a little bit about, obviously when you're playing to these, these crowds, like, when you're opening up, how do you kind of like hook people in? I feel like every artist has their own, their own way of like, not just playing, but kind of like really trying to get the audience into the music in their own way.
So what we do is basically we don't address the audience at all. So there's like this paradigm thing where as soon as we like even just have a slightest smile, people are like, oh, there's something they can latch onto. But as long as there's like this cold border between you and them, in my experience, it kind of puts them in a grasping position. I might eat these words after this Meshuggah tour, but we will see.
No, but yeah, that's really interesting though, because it makes it like the audience is like watching a show. You know what I mean? Like they're seeing this thing happen in front of them. It's not like, they're, yeah, I understand what you're saying. So another question that I definitely wanted to dive into with this new record, I kind of want to ask a little bit about, obviously your influences with writing this, what were you listening to? And another question is, do you listen to a lot of bands when you're recording, or do you kind of steer away from them?
I find it like impossible not to listen to music because, if you have that doctrine and you end up going to the supermarket and then Carly Rae Jepsen is banging and playing, then,
Yeah.
But so I listen to a lot of, well, not that much black metal, just like industrial stuff. A lot of like electronic ambient music, stuff like Fran Eno and Cameroon, stuff like that. Just all across the board, basically.
Yeah, of course. And I'm sure that contributes to the songwriting. You're right. Like everything that you hear, you're gonna put into your music in some way or another in your influences. Kind of switching gears a bit, going into a totally different direction. I wanted to ask specifically your journey with how you learned to scream, because I feel like Zeal and Ardor, especially yourself, you have the most like iconic scream in this modern metal scene. It's very like there's no way to like replicate this. Like you can't really imitate the kind of those heavy vocals and those unclean vocals that you do. So like what was that process like, finding that voice of yours?
See, for me, my vocal training was basically just recording stuff. I didn't go to school or anything. So I just recorded myself until I didn't hate it, because if you hear your own voice, you're going to cringe. I mean, you as a radio person, you can relate to this.
Yeah.
But you eventually you get to the point where it's palpable. And it was the same thing with the vocals. I just tried until it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Great explanation.
No, but that's true. Like, and you're right. Even like on the radio side of things, you eventually just get comfortable enough with it where you can dissect, okay, well, that was not my best, but this is definitely, what I can aim for, and you find that comfortable ground.
And you kind of cherry pick what sounded good, and you kind of expand on that. It's just trial and error, basically.
Yeah. Do you ever find a time when you were like practicing and you like either blew out your voice or like something happened, and even like finding those, I'm sure, remedies of doing it safely also was a tough trial and error?
Yeah. It didn't happen yet. I mean, I will get super like hoarse while recording stuff. But other than that, I was fine. But I think I'm also pushing my luck to a certain degree, and we'll see how long I can do this.
All good. Do you have a different scream for like studio versus touring? I know some artists do, some artists don't.
No, because I mean that would be cheating the audience too, because they're like they want to hear what you, I mean, not exactly, but they want to basically hear what's on the record. You can't just go, well, this is my skate stream. I don't think that'll go over well.
Yeah. No, but you're right. Like for fans that like, like really put in the time, they know all the lyrics, they've listened to all your records, all your EPs, and then they see it live and it doesn't quite sound like it does. That I understand how that could be a disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound like it does on the record because there's like 3 singers in total, and it's far more energetic live, I believe. But I think it's adjacent enough or close enough so we can get away with it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I even think, when you're seeing like a band like Zeal and Ardor live, there's so much to latch onto with like the music. You know what I mean? That there's so much happening that like, it really, it has that energy of sucking you into the show.
Happy to hear that.
Absolutely. Well, now I do want to ask a little bit about, obviously we're talking about playing live. Balancing your live set has got to be tough because you do have tracks like, Gravedigger's Chant or Golden Lyre, which are kind of more like, bluesy rock stuff. And then, you have like Run, which is just like the heaviest, black metal I've heard. I'm sure it's got to be tough to kind of balance that set list live and figure out the ins and outs.
Well, it is, but I mean, we've been doing this for quite a while, and I think we're kind of confident in. It's basically like jangling a set of keys in front of a baby. Like, okay, you're bored with the slow stuff. Here comes a really angry one, and then okay, you can't really listen to this. Let's calm down together. It's basically hot, cold, and that actually just works for some reason.
Yeah, it's like like the waves coming in and out. I love that. Absolutely. And you know, I that's part of the reason why I think I love seeing bands like Zeal and Ardor live, is because if everything is super intense, then like nothing is super intense.
Precisely.
Because like I've been to deathcore shows and I love deathcore, but like, you know, I've been to a few deathcore shows where I get bored. And it's weird to say that I get bored at a deathcore show because it's like objectively one of like the heaviest kinds of music. But like if it's all the same kind of sound, it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, I love Napalm Death, and seeing them on festivals is perfect because it's like, you know, 40 minutes, and that's like I think that's like the amount of intensity my brain can take until it just shuts down. And I went to see them headlining, and just the contrast wasn't there. So I didn't see like other bands prior or after, and it was just that for 1.5 hours, and you just kind of get numb to it. And yeah, our silly brains need that contrast, I guess.
Exactly. Absolutely. Well, I wanted to thank you again so much for taking time out of your day to sit down and talk with me about this. Obviously,
Gladly.
new record, self-titled, is available everywhere now. You can hear it on WSOU 89.5 or, you know, on all streaming services. But
I heard that's the loudest rock. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Oh, definitely. There's a lot of rocks out there, but I heard that WSOU 89.5 is in fact the loudest.
Spectacular.
My last question is, I kind of want to ask what went into making this record like self-titled, because I feel like with a self-titled album, it's tough because, you know, you have to kind of almost encapsulate like, oh, this is the band's, you know, record.
Yeah.
It's kind of a hard thing to, you know, to walk.
Well, we just figured we've tried so many things, and I think it's not a definite thing. It's not like this is us and we'll always be precisely this. Rather, it is like this kind of a mission statement. Like it's going to be eclectic. It's going to be all over the place, but it'll still have consistently one flavor, I guess. And then also we didn't have too many great ideas for the album title, perhaps. Who knows? But here we are.
Well, I imagine that's a tough task. I mean, you've just spent years of your life pouring into this record, and then you have to think of 2 words to like name it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It was literally me and Noah, the guy you saw earlier. He was here, just staring at the blank space. We had the Zeal and Ardor, we had the hands, and then under it, we're like, you know what would fit there pretty nicely? The same thing again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we love to see it. We're loving the new record. And yeah, thank you so much.
Gladly, this was a treat.